Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Default Global. This is where we connect with global first entrepreneurs and remote work experts from all around the world to share their experiences and knowledge. And today we have a very special guest, Tony Jamous, CEO at Oyster. Tony, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Vid, for having me, and hello, everybody.
Yeah, we appreciate your time very much. Tony, your transformation from a computer science student to the founder of your previous company, Nexmo, right, and now as the CEO of Oyster is truly inspiring. So with that, could you maybe briefly tell us about your journey and how you kind of ended up creating a company that is changing the world, changing remote work, and helping companies hire talent across across the world, basically.
So I was born in Lebanon in 1980, and I had to leave my country because the country was ravaged by a civil war, and I was looking for better economical opportunities as well. There was no really future in this country. So I moved to France when I was a teenager, and I studied computer science. And when I was in France, I was really influenced by French culture, and at the core of French culture is equality. And I remember when I was a student in France, the government came and gave me 350 euro per month to help me with my rent. And I asked, "Hey, why you guys are doing this? I'm not even French yet."
Hmm.
And they told me because we want everybody to have equal access to opportunity, and we don't want you to struggle and worry about your financial concerns. Well, we want you to focus on your studies and succeed. And that was really touched me. And eventually, I started my first technology company 13 years ago, a company called Nexmo that was a cloud communication platform that
Hmm.
went to 100 million of revenue in the first 5 years. I started that from London and San Francisco. It was we employed people in 40 countries, and then the company went public, and then it got acquired by Ericsson a few years ago for $6.5 billion. So I decided to take some time off and really focus on connecting what I do with my purpose and aligning with what I do with what I believe in. So
Hmm.
for me, I knew I needed to build another scalable software business. This is where my skill set is. But this time around, I wanted it to be an impactful business and also a fully distributed business because in my previous company, we hired in 40 different countries, and I was able to really witness the power of distribution. Not only you can access an amazing talent, highly diverse, but you can change people's life in many countries. But I wasn't looking forward to the challenges we faced there. We had to build an employment infrastructure, set up entities, hire lots of local lawyers, accountant, payroll providers. I
Right.
mean, we spent millions of dollars building that employment infrastructure, and we failed to deliver on great employee experience. So I started looking for solutions back in mid 2019 for a platform that helps me go and essentially be default global, as you mentioned
Hmm.
the name of this podcast. How can I not see borders as an obstacle for me to hire talent? And I couldn't find solution. What I found was a professional services driven industry called employer of record. That was a $31 billion industry that was ready for software disruption. So this is where I realized actually that my company not only will be a fully distributed company. Today we are 600 people in 80 countries, but its mission is to empower companies tap into the global talent pool in
Hmm.
the purpose to make the world more equal and more free. And this is how we
Hmm.
ended up building Oyster.
Okay. So, and currently, Oyster provides this global employment platform that covers 150 countries or more than that, right? So,
Yes.
and just briefly, can you explain for those who are not aware of this how Oyster's platform really works and how it helps companies overcome those complexities that you have just talked about, complexity of global employment?
Yeah. So the problem that companies face is that employing somebody in another country is very complicated and a risky process. You have to understand
Right.
local labor laws. You have to set up entities, find lawyers, accountants. You have to find benefits. You have to know are you going to be competitive to that talent? How are you going to give them an offer that resonates with what they need in the local market? So this is where Oyster comes in, and we enable you through our software platform to extend a job offer, an employment contract that is not only compliant but also adapted to the needs of that employee in that country. We enables you to extend to them localized benefits, and over 50% of our uh, employees under management have higher tier localized benefit on the platform. And then finally, we enable you to process the payroll and the payment in multiple currencies and in one click. So essentially, we make hiring globally as easy, if not easier, than hiring locally, and therefore reduce all the barriers in front of company. And really, the only task I need to do is to find the talent, and we take care of the rest.
Okay, that sounds perfect. And Oyster has experienced this remarkable growth, raising 150 mil right in Series C and becoming a billion-dollar company in just 2 years, right? So I'm just curious, can you share the key factors that have kind of fueled this rapid growth of Oyster?
Yeah, so it is three things actually. There's demand,
Okay.
uh, culture, and people, and three, the mission. So let's
Hmm.
start with the demand. So we started this company in January 2020. Uh,
Right time.
yeah, I mean, amazing timing. We in 3 weeks we raised our seed round of $4 million. The moment the money hit the bank account, we went into lockdown. Like the next day, it was a surreal moment. We had to go really, really fast. We had no technology whatsoever. We were a team of two, and in less than 1 year, we had to be able to capture, to position Oyster on the map and start
Hmm.
capture, actually harvesting the demand that's going to explode in front of our eyes. So COVID, that led to the shift to remote work, that led to the shift to hiring globally. Companies are
Hmm.
not anymore needing to hire in 20 miles radius from their office, have unlocked pockets of demand that we never expected to happen in such a short period of time. That's number one. Number two is, well, people and culture. So you have to build an organization that can deal with such high growth, hyper growth intensity business. So uh, from one hand, we needed to. So my number one goal was to build my own team. Right? If I do a
Hmm.
great job building my executive team, then I would have set this company for success. So what I did is the first person I partnered with in the whole company was an executive search advisor who
Hmm.
came and helped me design how this leadership team would look like.
Hmm.
And we went through an extensive executive search approach to hire every one of my leaders and making sure that they are mission aligned, they are fit for purpose, and they knew how to take the company not only from 0 to 1, but 1 to 100, to 0 to 10, but 10 to 100, essentially to help us in that scale. So that really helped, because then they had leaders that were experienced in dealing with hyper growth situation, and they could grow with the opportunity.
Hmm.
Thirdly is the mission and the culture, right? So here we wanted Oyster to purposefully be one of the most diverse and the most distributed and the most mission-driven companies on the planet, so we can demonstrate to the world that uh, being remote and hiring on a global scale is actually a strength and a
Hmm.
superpower, and that helped us to become a talent magnet. We
Yeah,
used to receive 13,000 job application a month for a
it's
company that is
crazy.
barely 3 years old, because people wants to work for companies that makes them successful no matter what they are.
And yeah, you mentioned that COVID was the main like pushing power, right? So COVID basically made businesses to find ways how people can work from home, right? Then then I guess next step was this tech talent shortage, specifically in the US, that made companies start hiring globally, right? That's what you just discussed.
Yeah.
But it seems like this is changing, right? So big companies are now saying that working from home is not allowed anymore. There are some important guys and important entrepreneurs are trying to convince everyone that letting people, work from home was a big mistake. And on top of that, we also there's a lot of change happening in the tech jobs market, right? Layoffs and so on. So keeping all that in mind, I mean, how can entrepreneurs in companies overcome this traditional mindset of focusing on local hires and instead adopt a global hiring and global career perspective maybe for their employees? Do you
Mhm.
have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk first why there is this change.
Yeah.
This change is happening because the balance of power is shifting back to the employer in a crisis, in a macroeconomical crisis situation. However, uh, this progress towards the future of work that I believe
Hmm.
is going to be a global future of work
Hmm.
uh, is like two step forward, one step backward. So we are in this one step backward now because there's
Okay.
economical reality that the world is going through. But there is no doubt that the future is remote, and the percentage of companies and remote workers have actually got multiplied by at least 10x in the last few years,
Hmm.
and that trend is going to continue. Now, why it's going to continue? Why this is two step forward, one step backward, and we're going to see more progress in the future is because the best talent in the world now they know that they can have an additional degree of freedom, which is to work
Hmm.
from where they want to work and work flexibly. And this top talent is going to gravitate towards companies that make them successful no matter where they are. And
Hmm.
therefore, these remote companies, they're going to attract the best talent and they're going to become the best companies of tomorrow. I mean, who said today that Google and Amazon and Facebook are they're not anymore role models for what is a new modern organization culture should look like? They are dinosaurs. They existed for at
Hmm.
least 10, 20 years. And so they are large organizations that are difficult to change, and they are the old tech. They're not the new tech.
Right.
At least from a human organizational standpoint, they are not innovative on that point. So, uh, and finally, so when it comes to your question regarding the layoffs and the economical realities that are hitting the world and specifically the technology sector, um, we believe that companies now have the choice compared to previous economical crises not to lay off as much, but to diversify where they hire and go hire in more cost effective location in the world. Uh, we we have seen data that if you hire somebody, let's say from an emerging economy, uh, even if you pay them 30 to 50% more than what they get
Hmm.
from local salaries, you're still reducing
Hmm.
your costs, your headcount cost, by at least 50% compared to hiring somebody 20 miles from your office.
Okay.
And we have the data at Oyster. We have seen the growth in emerging market hire increase by at least 20% in the last 12 months.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay, and let's maybe talk a bit about the employer of record market itself, right? So currently, there are many companies are jumping into this market, trying to get a piece of it, right? And there are different approaches, different strategies that personally I see. So, for example, recently on this show, I had Liam Martin, who founded this running remote conference. Also, I had Dee Cockley. I don't know if you're familiar with her. She is CEO at Boundless, another employer of record company, and
Mm.
they both stress that the importance of employer of record companies owning their own legal entities in each country that they cover, right? and that they think it is the key for keeping clients under employment laws, what safe under employment laws, right? And
Mm,
however, there are some bunch of other players that I also talked to who just decided to kind of delegate that compliance stuff, legal things, to the local lawyers, local legal companies, and focus just building a great platform software
mm.
that will be easier for the companies to use, right? So given this different approaches, what sets Oyster apart of that, and how do you, another question, how do you ensure your clients are safe, maybe from the employment, regulation, compliance perspective? What is your strategy here?
Yeah. So look, there's no employer of record business without bulletproof compliance. I mean, that's like your business is selling compliance, right? So whether it is owning your own entities and be vertically integrated
Hmm.
or not, you have to guarantee compliance for the customer because you are employing that person in that country
Hmm.
through whether directly or through a partner. At Oyster, we have over 80% of hires that happens on our platform happens on our own infrastructure,
Okay.
and there's a long tail of partners we work with to cover long tail smaller countries. So let's say Cabo Verde, which is 500,000 people, smallest country in Africa.
Hmm.
Not because you are based in Cape Verde as an individual that you don't deserve access to great
Correct.
opportunities. So we have to use partners for the long tail markets. But the vast majority of our business is run on our own infrastructure. And how do we look at the market? Like what is like we look at what is really important for the customer, and we believe there's two strategic dimensions that are important for the customer. The first one is scalable compliance, and the second one is talent competitiveness. And this is where we focus on. So scalable compliance means that the customer can operate the compliance, where it's about generating contract, managing taxes, ensuring um, the proper benefits that are required by law, um, making sure that they're classified in the right way as an employee. So all these things can happen in a scalable way through our software platform. So the
Hmm.
customer doesn't have to spend hours or days to generate a contract. You can generate a contract automatically. And there is the
Right.
our Pearl Assistant, we call it, which is our AI driven tool, help the customer to navigate how to really create the best employment offer to the team members. And the second one is about talent competitiveness. So we help the customers to really become talent competitive, which means that how do what are the employment contract variable that makes you a great employer in
Hmm.
Greece? Or
Hmm.
what is a local benefit that you need to offer for Muhammad in Morocco so that he can feel that he's getting a good job offer from you, and increase um, your conversion rate on job offers and increase the retention rate for Muhammad in that country.
Hmm.
And we've launched recently our um, total rewards package that enable guide the customer to know how much they should compensate somebody, how they can offer them equity, what is the benefits that are relevant for that person in the country.
Hmm.
So by really focusing on making customer talent competitive and make compliance scalable, we become the strategic partner and trusted partner for our customer as they competitively acquire talent around the world and retain them.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. And you mentioned that Oyster basically covers everything starting from compliance and finishing with payroll, right? And you said the only thing that companies and your clients should do is just to find the talent itself, right? And from my perspective, I think the biggest advantage in this field could be kind of owning the most valuable resources in global hiring industry, just attention of those talent, right? So, and some of players in this field are doing this. They're trying to create this talent acquisition firm and then add employer of record service on top of that talent acquisition firm. And but don't you think that it could be a big step forward for maybe for your company, uh, while you might own your own worldwide pool of talent in various locations?
I do believe
What do
so.
you think?
And today we do it through partners, right? So we partner with
Okay.
companies like your company, Go Globi, to help our customers and find the talent. And
Hmm.
so we definitely see that as an opportunity to cover more of the employee life cycle and go higher in the value chain towards uh, talent discovery, if not talent acquisition.
Hmm. But you don't think about creating your own, maybe some sort of marketplace similar, maybe like Turing or TopTal, but only with this possibility for companies to hire directly without this middleman. Could be this the future direction for Oyster? What do you think?
Uh, Potentially. So today we don't know how we will do this. Whether it's
Hmm.
a partner only, whether it's a build internally, whether it's a buy. So we're looking at all possible strategic options. Yet we do again. We focus on the customer need first and foremost, and we want to help our customers find better talent faster and employ them scalably and competitively.
Hmm. Okay, sounds good. Okay, so I still have a bunch of questions, but still, I guess this one might be the last one because we're running out of time. So maybe could you briefly share three crucial tips for founders or executives who are just maybe starting to navigate this global hiring landscape? What should they keep in mind first?
Mm. Um, I think the first thing that you should keep in mind is how do you create a sense of equity and equality as you hire globally, whether it's
Hmm.
compensation, whether it's benefit. You want people to feel equal in the company no matter where they are.
Hmm.
Um, Secondly, it's really about making people productive and fulfilled in their role. So, is how do you design a company culture centered around remote work? uh, Probably you need to implement some form of asynchronous way of communication and collaboration and train people on it. That's what we did at Oyster. And the results are amazing. People record high level of productivity, high level of fulfillment that's unheard of in an office environment. So how do you really leverage this remote work opportunity to make your
Hmm.
business better?
Hmm.
And uh, thirdly is really about inclusiveness, because when you're hiring people all around the world, you want people to feel included. Not so if you're, let's say, you have an office, you don't want people that are outside the office to feel not included, to feel that they're missing out. They're not going to have a career progression. So you need to think about holistically about how can you create an inclusive culture. And part of that is really how do you work together. Like for instance, if you say, well, no matter if you're in the office, you need to connect on Zoom if you're having a meeting with people outside,
Hmm.
or this is how we do meetings. You have a pre-read, and you have invested in your documentation, you invested in your tooling in an intentional way. Um, that would be a game changer.
Okay, sounds good. Tony, it was an amazing discussion, and thanks for sharing your insights on international hiring, on future of remote work, future of global hiring, as well as challenges that we see now. And yeah, we wish you and Oyster all the best in your journey. Thanks for joining us today. We appreciate your time very much.
Thank you for having me. It was a great conversation.